In this video, I'm going to be covering the best 5 budget gaming keyboards you can buy for under $50. And I'll be ranking them from the worst to the best based on 4 things: sound, feel, aesthetics, and price. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be able to find a keyboard that you like that won't break the bank. So let's get into the first one. Starting off with the Ajaz AK680. Now, this keyboard is kind of interesting because right when you get it out of the box, it does feel a little bit cheap on the frame, but it's the internals that makes this keyboard pretty cool for this price point. I bought this keyboard on TikTok Shop for $28 on a sale, and honestly, for $28, this keyboard is pretty impressive. It has an 8K polling rate, magnetic switches, and they say they're quote unquote hot swappable, but when you pull the switch out, it's a proprietary switch, so you'd have to like find switches that fit in this, and I think it'd be pretty difficult to actually do that. On the back, there are flippy feet, and there's 2 heights to them, and it does actually have USB Type-C. There is south-facing RGB, which is nice, but overall, you can't really do anything with this keyboard because once you take the switch out and you try to swap it with anything else, you don't have the proprietary switch. So it's kind of a shoot yourself in the foot if you want a cheaper keyboard. So let's go into sound and why I think it's actually one of the best sounding keyboards in this list. So as you can see, the spacebar is actually pretty thocky on this keyboard, which surprised me a ton. And also the keyboard sounds super hollow. So I feel like if you open this keyboard up and tape modded it, it would actually help the acoustics by a ton. So let's talk about the feel. Typing on this keyboard feels actually pretty nice. And with the adjustable actuation, it does feel pretty good as well in games. Personally, the only gripe I have about this keyboard is the Ajaz branding on the bottom right. Having this Ajaz logo right facing you just seems a little gimmicky and corny. Since this keyboard is $42 now, I don't think it's really worth $42 because hot swap, and honestly, it's a little small. Now, it is a 65, but it's not my favorite. For the sound rating, I would actually give this an 8.5 out of 10. For the feel, I would give it a solid 7.5 on feel. Aesthetics, I personally would give this a solid 8. So my overall rating is a 7 out of 10. I think there are better keyboards for the price, which leads me to keyboard number 4, the Ajaz AK820. This keyboard is impressive. The case is unapologetically plastic, and honestly, it's not my favorite. You turn it over, it does have 2 flippy feet with 2 adjustable heights. One of my favorite features about this keyboard actually is that it has a knob, and for a keyboard at this price point of $38, that's pretty rare to see. So now let's talk about the internals of this keyboard. Once you pull the switch out, the keyboard has a gasket structure of 7 layers, and that means that essentially they put a bunch of foam and things like that to make the keyboard sound better. Once we take the switch out, we find a standard kind of yellow switch in here. It does feel pretty lubed as well. It is a 5-pin south-facing RGB slot. On the back, it does have USB Type-C as well. Let's go ahead and hear the sound. On the sound test, my favorite is the spacebar. It sounds so thocky, sounds really good, not too much ping, and it doesn't have much hollowness to it. The yellow switches are also one of my favorite switches, honestly. So for sound, I'm gonna give it a solid 9.9 out of 10. Now, that might be a crazy rating, but trust me, one of my favorite. Let's go on to the feel now. The switch in this keyboard is called the Sea Salt Purple switch, and I think it's a yellow clone because it's a 40-gram linear. I'll give the feel a solid 8.5 out of 10. Now, for aesthetics, I would rate this a solid 7 out of 10. I'm not a big fan of the yellow. As an overall rating, I would give this keyboard a solid 8.5 out of 10. So that brings us on to keyboard number 3, which is the EpoMaker TH80 Pro. You're probably gonna immediately jump to the comments and say, oh, this is not under $50, because it is, but you have to do a little bit of finessing. You can buy the bare bones kit right now for $65 on Amazon with a 20% off coupon, which they have available right now, which it'll be right around 50 basically. And the bare bones kit doesn't have any switches, so you'll have to buy some switches on your own. It's not my favorite keyboard, but I thought it's a solid mention because it's a solid budget option for you to build a baller keyboard, because this bare bones kit is one of the best bare bones kits you can buy to build a keyboard for the first time. A lot of you guys are not only just in the hobby for buying keyboards, but you're also in the hobby for building them and upgrading them. And this keyboard has some really nice upgradability that you can do over time. The keyboard is also wireless as well, and when you flip it over, it's got flippy feet, and on the back of it, it has USB Type-C as well in the top left, which is pretty cool. This keyboard also does feature a knob as well in the top right, and it does have some extra keys on the far right as well. And obviously this keyboard is hot swap because you can put any switch in it. It does have south-facing RGB, and it has a bunch of foam in between, so you could, you know, have some nice acoustics in the board. I actually put some Gateran blacks in this board. Before you guys jump the gun and say, oh, that's not a gaming switch, you can game on it. It's just better for productivity and typing. They just sound incredible. Like, just listen to this. The only dislike I have about this keyboard overall is that it sounds a tad hollow, but you could change that by adding some tape. Now, I have to kind of mention this because I run a mousepad company and we sell the keycaps on this keyboard. So if you're interested in getting them, we're out of stock of these currently, but we still have another set available that are very similar to these. So if you want to check them out, I have them linked in the description. GutzyAiden.com, please. Sound, I would give it a solid 7.5. I actually love the feel of this keyboard. I'm going to give it a solid 8.5. On the aesthetics, this is probably one of the best looking keyboards just because I gotta be a little biased because my keycap set's on there. I'm gonna give it a solid 9.5. Now the price is a little pricey because you're gonna have to buy some extra things for this keyboard. I'm gonna give it personally a 7.5 out of 10. Anyways, let's go on to keyboard number 4, which is probably the most famous or popular keyboard out there. This is the Alla F75, and I know tons of YouTubers, TikTokers, everybody has been talking about this keyboard. I actually met them at CES and I got this keyboard for free. So I do appreciate them for letting me kind of steal this keyboard from their booth. Appreciate you. So let's go ahead and talk about everything on the board. Now, this keyboard is heavy. It does have a little bit of flex to the keyboard itself. It does feel really high quality, and the plastic is solid as well. Now, this keyboard is wireless if you want to use it. There are two flippy feet. One is small and one is tall, obviously, and it is running USB Type-C as well. You can buy this keyboard on TikTok Shop for under $50. It also has a knob in the top right, which I also love. Now, they all are different prices depending on the colorway, which I think is kind of dumb. Now, this has a 13-layer gasket structure in it, which makes it sound incredible as well. Also, something I thought was pretty funny that they marketed on this is that the keycaps are anti-sweat keycaps. So this keyboard also is hot swap, and the switch in it is called Leobog Star Vector switches. Let me show you guys how incredible this actually sounds. Out of the whole list, this is probably the best sounding keyboard, I'm pretty sure. The stabilizers on this keyboard are solid, and the sound is just incredible. It's literally music to my ears. So for sound, I think this is a 10 out of 10. Best sounding keyboard on this list for sure. For feel, I would also give this a 10. And then for aesthetics, personally, I have a blue and pink setup, so this keyboard fits in my setup pretty well. I would give it probably a solid 9 for aesthetics. And overall, I would give this keyboard a solid 9.5. Let's go on to the very last keyboard of this list. By the almighty keyboard gods! This is the Gutzy AL66, and I know this keyboard is not $50 either, and a lot of you guys are gonna get mad at that for me. This keyboard is $78, and it's still one of the best budget keyboards of all time. So this keyboard is a 65% with a knob in the top right, and the full case is aluminum, and on the sides, it has RGB as well. Now, this keyboard's case is not flexible at all, and it doesn't have any flippy feet, which personally, I'm a big fan of. I hate flippy feet. And it's fully gasket mounted as well. Now, it also is wireless like the Alla F75, and the keyboard does have a software that comes with it that you can use online, which is pretty cool. So the switch in this board is milk switches, and they look pretty clear with like this white stem, which is pretty cool looking. Now, the keyboard is fully hot swap and has 5-pin, but you can't see it because they have a layer of foam in between. And since the keyboard is gasket mounted, it has a 15-layer gasket mounting structure. The stabilizers sound great, and also the middle of the board sounds great as well. I'm just really impressed with this keyboard overall. Now, I also forgot to mention that the keycaps on this board are the other set that I said was available on my site right now. And these are actually my own font and everything from my branding. If you want to check them out, link in the description again. For sound, I would rate this a 9.5. On the feel, I actually personally love these switches, and typing on this keyboard is really smooth and enjoyable. So I would give it a 9. For the aesthetics, I would give it a solid 8. Now, the only gripe again is the price, but for everything you're getting in this keyboard, it's pretty worth it. You probably watch all the keyboards and you're probably wondering, what keyboard should I buy? So let me go ahead and rank them from top to bottom on which one I think is the best. I think the worst buy for your money in this keyboard video, the Ajaz AK680 isn't the greatest. There's very little customizability with it. At number 4, I would actually put the Gutzy AL66 because personally, I don't think it's the best budget keyboard, but I think it's one of the best keyboards to buy if it was under 100. But since this video is for under 50, I'll have to put it at number 4. So let's go on to the third keyboard, I think, in the list. And I would have to say it's the EpoMaker TH80. I only really put this on this list just because I wanted to have a DIY or bare bones kit. So I'd put it in the third slot. For number 2, I would put the Ala F75 because the keyboard itself is one of the best budget buys out of this video. But I think there are better options for your money, which brings me to number 1, the Ajaz AK820 for $38 is the best budget buy in this video. You can buy this at $38, put new switches in it, tape mod it, make it sound incredible, lube the stabs, do all of that work and upgrade this keyboard as you go. And it's a really solid starter. The only gripe I have about this keyboard is the damn branding on the front. Why would you do this to us? So there you have it. The best budget keyboards under 50, but that's only one part of the puzzle. So if you're looking to upgrade your entire setup, watch this video next. Trust me, it has a lot of hidden gems and great things to upgrade for your setup next. And subscribe for more content like this. Deuces.